What are the top 10 cards released in 2021 for Magic the Gathering? Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, Magic Fan. In this video, I'm going to show you the top 10 cards that were released for Magic the Gathering in 2021. These are the cards that are the most synergistic, interesting, valuable, must-build arounds. Cards that really stood out. Let's check them out. We've got an honorable mention before the real top 10. We'll start with Professor Onyx, the 6-mana planeswalker that does so many amazing things. Just by casting spells, Magecraft is doing amazing things. You get cards off the top of your library. You destroy creatures to all your opponents at once. And then the ultimate is just ultimate, but it's an honorable mention. Number 10 is one of the hardest names to pronounce. Acererak. That's it, Acererak, the Archlich, is number 10. 3 mana for a 5/5 that keeps bouncing back to your hand and venturing into dungeons. There's also an infinite combo with this. I won't fully reveal it, but you can do an infinite combo and kill all your opponents with only 2 cards. Straight out of Modern Horizons 2 and breaking all the formats is Dauthi Voidwalker. Double black mana for a 3/2 Dauthi Rogue with Shadow? That's an ancient ability that was printed 25 years ago. Basically, it's unblockable. Super unblockable. Now here's the good part. If a card would be put into the opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead with a void counter. If somehow they discard cards, if they crack their fetch land, etc., it gets voided out of here. But wait, tap it, sacrifice the Voidwalker, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a counter on it, and you may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. So stuff that goes to the graveyard, you can take. Number 8 is our first double-faced card from Kalhdheim. On the one side we've got Valki, God of Lies, and on the other side we've got Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. Who would have known that this black-clad rogue was actually Tibalt, one of the worst planeswalkers? Now it's one of the best planeswalkers. Either for 2 mana you bring out a creature that lets you steal your opponent's creature and then transform into it, or for 1,000,000 mana you get to summon Tibalt himself that lets you then do shenanigans. It's up to you. Oh, Commander decks, they used to be okay, some are underpowered, and now they're overpowered. Here we've got Wand of Orcus from Forgotten Realms Commander. It's the legendary artifact equipment that really synergizes with zombies. All your zombies get Death Touch, and zombies make more zombies. You got a zombie plague before you know it. 3 mana to cast, 3 mana to equip. That's pretty affordable. Next up is this big dumb creature, Archon of Cruelty, 6 mana for a 6/6 with flying. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, and you draw a card and gain 3 life. If only there were ways to cheat this into play much faster. I like to LOL when I cast LOLth. The joke almost works. I like to LOL when I cast LoLth. Spider Queen, they are a 5 mana, 4 loyalty planeswalker. Whenever your creatures die, put more loyalty on LoLth. I've done lots of lols when a bunch of my creatures die and suddenly I've got 15 loyalty. So what am I doing here? 0 loyalty to draw a card, lose a life, -3 loyalty to create 2 spiders. They've also got Menace and Reach. And then -8, you get an emblem that whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control, this is a novel. If that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. So yeah, there's some math going on. When I play it on Arena, the math is done for me, but when you play this in real life, you're gonna have to do some math. Anyway, it's a great card. It's the 5th best card that I'm naming so far, and the extremely rare promo version is very valuable if you can get your hands on it. Did someone say Tiefling Rogue? First of all, what's a Tiefling Rogue? Anyway, we've got the Grim Hireling. It's a 4 mana 3/2 that makes lots and lots of treasures. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create 2 treasures. Pay black and sacrifice X treasures. Target creature gets -X until end of turn as a sorcery. So you're never going to do that, unless you really need to, but you're going to be making lots of treasure tokens, and then you get to synergize with all those treasures or just ramp faster than your opponent. Yet another Modern Horizons 2 card that is warping the format. We have Grief, joining anger and sadness and ticklish and all those other emotions that we got. So Grief, for 4 mana, you get a 3/2 with Menace, Elemental Incarnation. When this enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and then they discard the card. Okay, here's why everyone's loving and losing their minds over this card. Evoke. Exile a black card from your hand. Now, this is a mythic rare, so it assumes you know what Evoke is because there's no reminder text there. But what Evoke is an alternative casting cost. You can pay that, and then the creature hits the battlefield and then is immediately sacrificed. So people are losing their minds because you can play this card for free. Just exile a black card from your hand, you play Grief, it hits the battlefield for a moment, it does its thing, it goes to the graveyard, and then with other recursion and synergies you can keep bringing it back and so forth. 2 of these in your hand, 2 black cards to exile, you can do this double to your opponent on turn 0. 0 mana. The very definition of griefing. The number 2 card on this list is Toxi, the Corrosive. 7 mana for 7/7 Slug Horror, with a huge wall of text, but buckle up here. At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1 for each counter on them. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a slug, and then pay Dimir mana, sacrifice a slug, draw a card. So this is slowly weakening all of your opponent's creatures every single turn, as long as Toxi is on the battlefield here, and then as their creatures die, you get slugs. And the more slugs that you have, the more Dimir mana you can pay to draw more cards. Then we've got some really epic and scary art with the showcase border over here in the grayscale version of things. This looks horrific. Nonetheless, it is the number 2 card published in 2021. And before we get to the number 1 top most best card published in 2021, why not take a guess? Why not pause the video, go to the description, tell me what you think is going to be number 1, and then come back and watch the video. And if you're right, you'll get a nice warm feeling that you agreed with me, VmCampos. And if you're wrong, that's okay, you just learned what the top best number 1 card of 2021 was. Back to the list. That's right, it had to be it. The Meat Hook Massacre is the number 1 card published in 2021. Black, and X for a legendary enchantment. When this enters the battlefield, each creature, your own as well, be careful, gets -X until end of turn. So this gets rid of all of those indestructible creatures that often vex you. -X will deal with indestructibility. Take that, Toski. So then what happens here? Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So as your creatures die, your opponents die. And whenever a creature and opponent dies, you gain life. Now, you have this board wipe, this X board wipe that you can do. Imagine you've got a 7/7 creature and everything of your opponents is less than 7/7. You just pay 6 mana into this to board wipe the opponent's creatures, you keep your creature, their creatures die, you gain some life. And this sticks around in the battlefield, and every time it happens, not just because of the massacre, but anytime this happens, your creatures die or their creatures die, this happens. That's why it's the most valuable card published in 2021. We got various prices here, various promo versions, full art versions, and so forth. It's the most valuable, it's the most synergistic, it's the most interesting card published in 2021. And that's some really gross art. And that was my list of the top 10 cards plus honorable mention, released in 2021. Plenty of cards to choose from, but did you notice that they were all black cards? Well, that goes to show you that we are playing with the best color of Magic, black. If you've got an opinion for non-black cards, tell me in the comments. What are your favorite cards that were released in 2021 for not black or multicolor? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider going over to my Patreon, patreon.com/VmCampos, and pledging $1 to become part of the VMC crew. I would really appreciate it. Starting at $1, you really help the channel. Keep it going, keep me funded, keep me motivating. You become part of the VMC crew, the small percentage of people that not just consumes content, but gives back to the content creators. We love to create content, but we love it when you pledge at any amount. If you can't quite pledge at the moment, no worries, simply like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, battle the Minotaur, do all that good stuff. I would greatly appreciate that too. In the meantime, enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one.